Hello and welcome to the Metapod Podcast, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. My name is Jake and my co-host Sean here, as you can see on screen if you're one of the video listeners of the podcast can see. It's actually just going to be me today on the cast. Sean not feeling too well, and I was like, you know what, there's some cool news, some brief stuff that we can talk about. A lot of the competitive world, at least, is in the Surging Sparks waiting room. Surging Sparks, the brand new expansion in the Pokemon trading card game, releasing this week. So if you want to get your hands on the new set, maybe get the new Pikachu EX, a beautiful, beautiful card. Already seen some people pull it from booster boxes at the stores, releasing it early because of, you know, holding pre-releases and things like that. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So make sure, as well as you're getting your Surging Sparks, let us know your polls in the Discord. We have an official Metapod Podcast Discord server that you can join in the description or show notes. It has a link in there, is what I should say. But a little bit of news, a lot of the news actually surrounding around Pokemon TCG Pocket. Right, we've talked about Pokemon TCG Pocket a couple times. It is officially released since the last podcast episode that we've had, and there's a lot of great stuff coming out of it from a lot of different perspectives as well. And I won't get too much into my opinion. I have been playing Pocket. I know Sean has been playing Pocket as well, but I want to save kind of the conversation of the thoughts once we get like another week or two under our belt. And, you know, Sean here in to have an actual discussion with me on some of the stuff that we like, some of the stuff that we dislike, because I will say, there are a lot of pros to it, but there's also a decent amount of cons in my week of playing Pokemon TCG Pocket, I will say. But going into the news, there's a bit of news that has gone on. We do know about the upcoming illustration contest promos. So in Japan, they announced that they will release the illustration promos in March. If you do not remember, every single year when Pokemon holds the Illustrator contest, right, and they determine the winners, they are made into Pokemon card promos. And so I have a set of one of the previous years. I absolutely love the Illustrator promos. Usually pretty cool in my opinion, especially this year. I believe they have an EX, the Toxtricity EX from Anderson, I think it is. But one of the cards, all three of the cards, the Pikachu right here that you may see on screen if you're watching the video version, the Feraligatr from Acorvi Art, the Pikachu being from Kazuki Minami, and then the Anderson Toxtricity EX. They will be releasing in Japan as part of a booster box purchase of Heat Wave Arena going on in March of this next year. They'll come inside a special 3-card promo pack. So again, that's in Japan, and in previous years we have gotten them through the Pokemon Center website, the English Pokemon Center website. And what it was, I believe in previous years, is like if you signed up, you got emailed a code, right? And then you can use the code at checkout on a purchase of X amount of dollars or more, and then it would add those promo cards to your cart. So we don't know exactly how like English or the rest of the world outside of Japan is going to be getting these Illustrator contest promos, but we will probably get those promos. And I just want to put this on a lot of people's radars because I know, especially myself, I love these Illustrator promos I did mention. And so want to have you guys keep your eyes on that, and we'll let you know as well, you know, how they decide to distribute it. We'll give you an update when that stuff comes out. But moving into the next topic, now moving into the whole Pokemon Pocket, right? Pokemon TCG Pocket, a storm of news in here. Pokemon TCG Pocket in here. I'm going to talk about the downloads first before I get into how much money has been made in Pokemon TCG Pocket. According to November 1st, right? So the game released on October 30th. That was the launch date. So 2 days after. So this is honestly old news. 3 or 4 days old. Pokemon TCG Pocket hit 10 million downloads in the first couple days of the launch of Pokemon TCG Pocket. 10 million downloads on the first day. It had 6 million pre-registrations. So honestly, that's huge in my opinion. Just a lot of people playing this game, trying out this game. It is very, very cool to see all these people jump on it, especially, you know, when you talk about the history of Pokemon mobile games like Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go's explosion was huge. I don't think Pokemon Pocket's usage is huge, and it's a little bit harder to tell because this is from your phone, like at home as you're playing around, or your tablet, whereas Pokemon Go was a huge event that people like went outside and did things for. So it's a little bit more tough in a comparison sense to that, but huge 10 million downloads I think is really, really awesome, and it's only been growing a ton since then. And even through that, because I believe it was because of all of the downloads that they had, they actually announced this special event that went on with a whole bunch of different stuff, and you can get like exclusive cards with stamps and stuff like that. And they even teased on their Twitter account that other stamped event cards are coming soon in the game for various ways, and we don't know exactly what that is, but it's very interesting to see a lot of people download this. Obviously, there's a floodgate of people that start right away on any mobile app, really, you know, when it first released. So we'll just have to see how long that holds on and whatnot. But I think some of the bigger news in Pokemon TCG Pocket is Pokemon TCG Pocket, in its first 4 days on the market, according to App Magic, earned an estimated $12.1 million in USD. This is about $3 million per day. And if you're wondering what Pokemon Go does right now in comparison per day, you know, Pokemon Go's been out like what, 5-6 years now. So it's a little bit, you can't really compare them, but just to tell you, because you know Pokemon Go is super popular, very, very extraordinary, and very well known and loved. That makes $1 million per day. So in the first 4 days, Pokemon TCG Pocket tripled the daily revenue of Pokemon Go. Absolutely insane. There's also information according to PokeBeach and App Magic on how much demographics spend on the game. So Japanese players spent the most money on the app than any other audience at 45% of that $12 million revenue. The US was at 25% following it. So honestly, pretty insane, especially it's not overly surprising, I feel like, right? I feel like this is probably something that we could have assumed in there, especially because I don't think Pokemon TCG Live is accessible to Japanese players. At least I don't think PTCGO was when that was still around. So, you know, Japanese players getting these kinds of games, very, very popular. I know like gacha games in general are usually really popular in Japan. So seeing 45% of the spending in Japan is not overly surprising, and then the US following it. But US accounted for 29% of all downloads, then followed by Brazil at 11%, Mexico at 6%, Japan at 4%. So even though Japan had 4% of all of the downloads of Pokemon TCG Pocket, right? Those 10 million downloads that we talked about in the first couple days, they spent 45% of the $12 million. That means almost $6 million Japan spent, even though they were 4% of the downloads to start. Wow. That is insane. That is crazy in my opinion, if you think about the numbers in that perspective. In the US, I mean, even though I think the US, a lot of people playing it as a free-to-play platform, right? They don't want to get into it with money right away. They want to test the waters and stuff like that, see what it's like in there before they maybe invest money into it. So pretty interesting, I would say. It's going to be really curious to see how the especially revenue of Pokemon TCG Pocket continues through the time, right? You know, it's only like a week old now. What about in 3 months, right? 6 months, a year? Where is Pokemon TCG Pocket? Is it earning $1 million a day like Pokemon Go? Or is it petered out to only, $100,000 a day, which is still a lot of money, but for the Pokemon franchise, $100 million or 100 million. Wow, 100 million is a lot, but $100,000 is probably somewhat of a drop of the hat. So it's going to be really interesting to see about that. But what's also interesting is this week there was a lot of news revolved around Prismatic Evolutions, the new Evolutions I'll never get this word right. Terrastol, I think is how you pronounce it, set that is going to be coming. There's a product called the Prismatic Evolution Surprise Box that has been revealed on the Pokemon Center as of late. So you get this box, right? It's going to cost you $23. And in this, it's going to come with 4 packs of the set, the EV set. What is it? Prismatic Evolutions, I believe it's called. You get a set of card dividers, as you can see here if you're looking at the video version of the podcast, and a code card. But also inside of it, it's going to come with one of the EX cards, right? The Evolution or EVEX cards from Prismatic Evolutions with a special set stamp on it as well. So there's going to be a little bit of like Gamba, right? You're going to be able to get a promo of this, a special limited edition, honestly, type stamp on these cards on one of these evolutions. So it's going to be really interesting to see as people buy these, try to get specific ones. It's going to be really curious, especially. I like that they made them the like regular arts, right? It's not going to be like the alternate arts. It's not going to be like special exclusive arts, right? It's just the exclusivity is the promo stamp. So I think that this is going to make it relatively affordable. It's obviously going to resell pretty highly, I think, on the secondary market. So if you can't get it on the Pokemon website, it's probably going to be difficult to be able to get it. But we also see a little bit of stuff, I think, on some of the packaging and whatnot. I know one of the comments said 131 cards in here. Does this say how many cards are in the set? I don't think so in there. So I actually don't know where they got that information from. But either way, you can go on the PokeBeach article to look at the different products that you'll get. There's also like a set of reverse holo cards that are going to feature Pikachu on it that we see in this as well. So again, it's going to be a pretty big set, right? I think the set, although we haven't talked about it yet, the set is going to include the Japan Master Ball and Pokeball Reverse Holo promos. So especially if you want a master set, this set is going to be insane to be able to do so. But that wasn't the only news of the Prismatic Evolutions. The Prismatic Evolutions, it leaked all of the alternate arts, actually. It was a double-sided poster, I believe it was, as PokeBeach explains it. It came from a UK store, I think I saw somewhere. I don't have any confirmation on it, but if you want to right now, you can look on PokeBeach's website. You can see all of the alternate arts that are going to be in it. And I know they're a little bit grainy if you're looking at the video version of the podcast, right? It's grainy, but you can see that the Umbreon is going to be right over the moon. So Moonbreon 2.0 is going to be coming back. The Espeon, I believe, is near the sun, but these are going to be banging. These are going to be popping. These are going to be so good looking. I feel like in person, they're going to be absolutely stunning. You can kind of see them a little bit better in this picture right here. Going to be beautiful. Interesting that the alternate art's already leaked. I don't remember really the last time that these leaked. Or like big cards and big sets like this had some of these like more bigger leaks in the Pokemon trading card game. So it's going to be really interesting. I do kind of like the art style on some of these. They feel like glass, like, what's the phrase that I'm looking for? It's like, like when you're in a church or something and the glass has like paintings on it, that's like what I'm thinking. It's like the Moltres Articuno and Zapdos alternate art, that like stained glass. That's the word that I'm looking for. Stained glass they kind of feel like, at least from these images, that some of these, like the Leafeon here, has that stained glass effect. I'm thinking the Vaporeon kind of looks like that too. So it'll be interesting to see if that follows through as time goes on, as we continue seeing these sets. But yeah, like this person says down here in the comments, rip the wallet. This is going to take a lot of people's money on there. So please be careful if you're trying to get all of these cards. Make sure you're spending money wisely. One thing that I will say, though, continuing on the Pocket train, is that Pocket had a couple tournaments on Pokemon TC, or Play Limitless, I'm sorry, on Pokemon Pocket. Yeah, some people did run tournaments on the Play Limitless site for Pocket a couple days after it released, and Ursa Day being one of them had a 500 plus player tournament on Pokemon Pocket. So that's really interesting in itself, right? A 12 round tournament is pretty insane to think about, in my opinion, for the bracket. But one thing that you'll see not only through Ursa Days, I'm not going to go too far into the meta because I'll talk a little bit about it later, but I think Pokemon TCG Pocket is much more luck-based in terms of its battling. Yes, there is some consistency that you can do, and there's some cheeky ways around it, but I do think it's a little bit more RNG than the regular game. But one thing that I will say is through Ursa Day's Pocket Weekly, and also the Pokemon TCG Pocket Genetic Apex #1, which I believe had like a little under 500 players. It was like 400 something. One thing that I will say in this is that Lightning was very, very good. So if you're looking on Pokemon TCG Pocket and you're looking for some deck lists, right, because you're like, I don't know what to build, or you're trying to figure out some ideas, one of the things that you can do is you can go to the Play Limitless site and grab some deck lists. That's one of the things that I'm super excited about as well within the community, is that people are kind of latching onto Pokemon TCG Pocket with open arms, right? The competitive TCG community is really enjoying this, I think, in general right now. And so, again, it's going to be interesting to see where it is in a month. It's going to be interesting to see where it is in 6 months, a year, etc., etc. But I think this is a really cool start for the Pokemon TCG franchise in there. And my favorite deck, let me see, I think I was running the same exact 20 cards as this person right here, this person named Lasagna. I run this exact deck list because it's only 20 cards. It's pretty easy to run the same exact deck list as somebody else, right, if you don't look at any of the tournament results. But this is something that I think is pretty easy to build, especially if you are like me. Maybe you don't have a ton of EXs or things like that. You know, you get some Weezings, Arbucks, and Muck. If for all of our audio-only listeners, I play a dark deck, right? Completely counters Psychic, and the idea of the strategy is to poison stuff with Weezing right at the beginning. Very efficient in terms of its energies, you know, deals poison with its ability, and then for 1 energy does 30 damage. So you're basically doing 40 per turn, a 50 when it comes back at you. And then Arbuck is kind of the premier attacker in this deck. For 2 energies, right, it does 60 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the Pokemon can't retreat. There's no switch cards in this format, right? There's no switch or prime catcher or escape rope or anything like that. So especially if you corner a 2-prizer, right, a 2-prize EX Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field, it's free to be taken in there, especially when you've got stuff like Sabrina and Potion for some survivability and things like that. But that's all I'm going to talk about Pocket in there. There was also a full-on Pokemon TCG IRL regional Gdansk, and it was very interesting to see the top 8. The top 8 had 2 Regidragos, 2 Banette Gardevoirs, 2 Iron Thorns, a Snorlax, and a Terapagos in there. So Dusknoir not as prevalent as we thought in the top 8, right? It is kind of teetered down just a little bit, but some of these other decks, you know, staying strong within the meta. 2 Iron Thorns in the top 8 is very, very cool. Regidrago being arguably the best deck, the most powerful deck, right? Not a surprise to see it hit first and third in this tournament. And then, you know, Magnus Peterson and Mateus, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, 2 great players in history. Laskiewicz from Poland, right? A well-known player if you're in the Pokemon trading card game competitive space. Both playing Gardevoir, Banette, and just, again, a really, really good list. A couple differences as well than usual with like Gravity Gemstone, I know, Cypher Maniacs, Code Breaking, not a card that we usually see in there, and then Luminous Energy as well, especially to fit with those Monkey Dories. So I know other players like Piper Lapine have loved Gardevoir in the recent couple months and stuff like that, you know, since the World Championships, and so this is just the next version, and really, really cool stuff to see. I did post the meta shares in the Metapod Discord for day 1 and day 2. Let me see if I can pull those up real quick to tell you a little bit about them as well. Day 1, oh gosh, please. I'm screwing up my showcase. Day 1 had 15% Raging Bolt in the meta, and then 12% Lugia V-Star. So the top 2 decks, the top 2 popular decks in Gdansk, not making it within the top 8, especially because a lot of people said that Lugia was super strong, right? Raging Bolt super strong. Caleb Gettimer winning a regional recently with the Raging Bolt, and then Lugia just so dominant, just not appearing in those top spots. And honestly, neither did Charizard, right? Charizard being 7% of the room, the 4th most popular deck, also not having an appearance. Dragapult EX, the 5th most popular deck, not having an appearance. Palkia, Dusknoir, not having an appearance, rounding out the top 6 most popular decks. And then going into day 2, if you want to see day 2, Terapagos was the most popular deck. So Terapagos conversion rate, absolutely astounding, right? It had arguably the best conversion rate out of any deck in the game that had a ton of different players on top of it. Raging Bull and Lugia, Regidrago still going 2, 3, 4 in popularity right there. So kind of teetering around the same. Maybe Raging Bolt falling off a little bit because it went from 24 to 12, right? You can make that argument in there, but I don't think we can argue Terapagos' dominance in this one. Terapagos just did so well in this, 16 people playing it in day 2 as the most played deck in the format, and then the top 8, like I mentioned, of those different decks. But again, lists can be found on Limitless's website if you're looking to jump into them for the last week or whatever before Surging Sparks. I'm personally in the Surging Sparks waiting room. I'm also thinking about GLC again. I have updated my GLC water deck. I saw that, I think it was Z-Man Cuddles over on Twitter, hosted a kind of bigger GLC tournament on, I think it was like over webcam, Discord, hosted it on Play Limitless. I think you can find those results if you want some updated stuff before the Surging Sparks cards come into the format. But thank you again so much for joining me in this one. It was a short episode, right? It's only a 25-minute episode. Usually when it's solo episodes just with me, they usually fly pretty fast, but not a ton of news in my personal opinion. There are some great news, right? And we could have definitely dived more into the news, especially with Pocket and, you know, the conversation revolving around Pocket and like how people feel about it. But I didn't want to do that without Sean, because I think that there can be some really cool conversation between the two of us on what Pocket is doing and how we feel about Pocket, right? As both Sean and I, right, we are big lovers of the IRL cardboard, right? But we're super, super busy people, and we love, you know, the Pokemon trading card game. I think Pokemon Pocket, if anything, is a really good thing to give to people who just love the Pokemon trading card game. That's, I think, the easiest way to put it. So Thank you again so much for listening to this week's short episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed your Halloween. If you did that, we're now moving on to the Mariah Carey season, where Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year, and we'll make sure to give you all the gifts of the news and special treats that you can get in the future episodes. I'm Jake. That's Sean over there with his cat in their Halloween costume from like 3 years ago, I think. But I appreciate you joining us. See you later.